San Francisco 49ers have completed 2 defensive coordinator interviews. The search is off and running. San Francisco 49ers concluded their exit interviews with Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch yesterday, and they are already on the lookout for who's going to come in and be that defensive coordinator. And Robert Saleh was in the building. So is this going to be a potential reunion? And on top of that, the 49ers have also interviewed another candidate, and we'll talk about that as well. But before we get into all of that, drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's talk about it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going good, gang? Hopefully you guys are doing well on this Thursday, January 9th. Let's get right into it. The San Francisco 49ers have had 2 defensive coordinator interviews today. And of course, at the very top of the list will be former Jets and 49er, former Jets head coach, former 49ers defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, coming through with the interview. So I like it. I think, as we've discussed, Robert Saleh definitely going to be at the top of most fans' wish lists when it comes to the defensive coordinator spot. So I'll be honest. I wasn't really sure how receptive Robert Saleh would be to coming back to be a defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. It just felt like the odds weren't necessarily in the 49ers' favor because he still has a couple head coaching interviews left. And let's say you have a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who he, I believe, has actually coached for previously before he was a defensive coordinator. Maybe they throw the bag at him. Maybe they say, we'll give you roster making abilities, whatever you need. Come over to Jacksonville. No state income tax, things like that. Come on over, and you can run the show over here for Jacksonville. So, although it is great to hear that Robert Saleh has interviewed with the 49ers, at least keeping that door open as a potential option, we still got to worry about him becoming a head coach elsewhere. But, as we've heard and from previous reports, it does sound like if Robert Saleh does not become a head coach in this hiring cycle, that he is definitely willing to come back to the 49ers and coach their defense. So, cross your fingers, 49er fans. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what comes from this situation. But at minimum, it is a good sign. It's a step in the right direction, and I like it. The 49ers have also interviewed another defensive coordinator candidate in Deshae Townsend. He is currently the passing game coordinator and defensive backs coach for the Detroit Lions. So this one is actually kind of interesting. I don't really know much about him other than what I've learned and kind of gathering information from once this report came out. But Townsend played 13 years in the league, and he spent 1998 to 2009 playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like that. I like that he effectively played his entire career with one team. He spent 1 year with the Indianapolis Colts in 2010, and he won 2 Super Bowls. So he's played the position at a high level. He's clearly proven that He is of high character, and to be able to stick in the league for 13 years is no easy task. And as a coach, um, he he also started his career as an assistant defensive backs coach with the Cardinals, and he also coached at Mississippi State, Tennessee Titans, New York Giants, Chicago Bears, Jacksonville Jaguars, and most recently the Lions. So, sounds like he's got a lot of experience as a coach and as a player. So, I really didn't know much about him, but I'm interested. I'm interested. JM says defensive backfield coach for the Lions. They are ranked 30th, by the way, of course. But let's not pretend like their entire defensive line hasn't been decimated with injury. Their front seven has been just an unfortunate situation. They have a rookie cornerback, but they also do have Kirby Joseph, who leads the league in interceptions. So it's hard to really, I think, evaluate the Lions' defense because they're so hurt. They're extremely hurt. So you have to take that into account. But I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Definitely not my first choice. But I do think that it is an interesting candidate, and we'll see. We'll see more. If I'm really curious to see what other names get rolled out in this situation. But let me ask you first, because let's swing it back to Robert Saleh, because clearly that's the guy that everyone is wanting for the 49ers. So let me throw it to you. With him still having um, 2 head coaching interviews left, we don't know, and one of them being the Jags. Hey, Robert Saleh. Hey, why don't you come on over? We got a lot of players that have torn their ACLs in the past, and man, we would love to have you back and really be able to coach them up and really bring back the Jaguars. Both of us have experience with the 49ers. Makes a lot of sense. Come on. We'll go get some more ACL prospects in the draft and we'll do this thing together. I wouldn't go to the Jaguars unless the only way Robert Saleh should consider the Jacksonville Jaguars job is if they get rid of Trent Baalke and they kind of give him the Kyle Shanahan treatment, where they're hiring Saleh, and then Saleh hires the general manager. Like that would be, in my opinion, like the only way that he should go back, because Trent Baalke is a disaster, and he's clearly they don't even know if he's gonna stick around through the offseason. I know you guys saw that video with Shad Khan with Baalke on the call, and the reporter was like, well, what happens if you have a coach who wants, full autonomy of making all the roster decisions? And he's like, oh, if we find the right coach, we'd absolutely consider it, which is basically saying if that guy came in, we'd give him an opportunity, which means this guy on the call is not going to be here. It's like, damn. But, shout out Trent Baalke. That guy has figured out how to keep his job longer than anyone. I strive to have the job security that Trent Baalke has. It's absolutely amazing. But I can't imagine it's going to last too much longer. So I don't love the fit for Saleh in Jacksonville unless they decide to move on from Baalke, because Baalke just that feels like, ugh. Yay. So let me ask you this. Based on initial, I mean, we're only 2 defensive coordinator interviews in, but the fact that one of them is Robert Saleh, and it's to also clarify, I think it was Matt Mayoko who reported that the Townsend interview was virtual. So it sounds like Robert actually came into the building, and so that's even, I think, a better, like a more positive sign that, Salah came through, like literally came to check it out, came back to his old stomping grounds, maybe got re-energized and was like, ooh, I could see myself back here for another year. But I think that's part of the double-edged sword with Salah potentially being um the defensive coordinator is it might only be for one season. But if it is for one season and the 49ers come back to relevance, I think the fans would be fine with that. I really do. I mean, it's one of the drawbacks of being a good team is that you're going to have your coaches, you're going to have your front office personnel poached. I remember I asked John Lynch about that at the combine last year, and he actually gave me a very candid response. I was expecting, because when we're at the combine, we're interviewing all the head coaches, we're interviewing all the general managers for the most part that attend. Kyle's one of the few that don't go, but you look around, there's D'Amico, there's Mike McDaniel, there's Queasy, at the time ran Carthon. And so like the 49ers fingerprints all over the league. And, Robert Saleh was there at the time. And I asked John, I was like, man, you look around, the setting here, and you got former coaches that were on this staff. You got you got former executives that have been elevated to these roles. Like, how cool is that to see? And he was like, you know what? It's actually kind of annoying. Because he's like, it's really hard to replace these guys. Like, it's really hard to be in this constant loop of year in, year out, having to replace them. And I was like, I actually wasn't expecting him to say that. And I was like, oh, but he of course then was like, we're really proud of them. It is a sense of pride that, you know, these guys are having success and they're getting these opportunities. But he was real. He was like, it's a point of frustration for us because that means we are constantly having to hire elsewhere. And that is a challenge. That is a challenge. And if you look at the 49ers staff, either coaching or front office executives, they're constantly having to replenish because guys have typically um, been hired. Now, the 49ers have been firing as of late. So no, they need a new special teams coordinator, obviously a new defensive coordinator, and for the reasons of not because they got poached away for being too good, but because they weren't good enough. So the positives, though, this time around, and shout out to Aponte for kind of like reminding me of this yesterday on State of the Franchise. It's the 49ers last year when they had fired Steve Wilkes and they had begun their defensive coordinator search. That was a month from now. That was like a month and a half from where we are currently sitting. So by the time the 49ers started their defensive coordinator search last season, everyone was hired because the 49ers played so late, because they played into February for the Super Bowl. By the time they got done with the season, all the good candidates were gone. They were all hired. So this time around, they at least have first crack at the potential or the opportunity to get one of the top defensive coordinators they can. So that's going to be fascinating to see. It's going to be really interesting to see how they operate this search. And I would imagine, with how they've had to kind of handle things as of late, I think they're really going to try to go and get the best DC that they can. But I think with them interviewing Robert Saleh, you would also have to assume Jeff Ulbrich is going to get a interview as well. However, Matt Barrows did make a good point that, as I believe it currently stands, Ulbrich is still under contract. They have not moved on from him, which is an interesting scenario, to say the least. But I would assume that Ulbrich will be on that list as well. Here's a cool little graph on Robert Saleh and his impact as of late. This is from SF Data 49ers, and this is Robert Saleh's defensive performance by year. So as you can see by this, clearly the 2019 season was by far the best in all categories. In a good rush defense and a good pass defense. That 2019 year, oh boy, that was special. It really was. And with that, that's, I think, what the 49ers fan base is kind of looking at. I think they are looking at the return of that dominance on defense, because when you look at that 2019 season, I don't credit Kyle and the offense for that 13-3 run to the Super Bowl. I credit Robert Saleh. I credit that defensive line. I talk about that defensive line a lot when we look back. The defensive line that was rookie Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, and Dee Ford. When those four were on the field, this defense was so hard to stop because all they had to do was rush for in pass situations. And in running situations, you had just absolute, people eaters in the Twin Towers of Defoe and Eric, that it was really freaking hard to run and pass on this defense. And remember, we had a late in his career Richard Sherman at cornerback. We had an inexperienced, undrafted free agent cornerback who got the start after about week 3, week 4 in Emmanuel Mosley. You had K'Wan Williams in the slot. Don't forget the shark. K'Wan was a dog. But you had Kowalski in the back. You had Jimmy Ward in the back. You had, at this point, this would have been the 2019, I believe, was Fred Warner's second season in the league. It was Dre Greenlaw's first year in the league. So if we're going to be honest with ourselves, the defense played so dang good, but it wasn't like they had studs everywhere. They had arguably one of the best defensive lines in the league, and everything else fell into place. And I think when you want to look at how the 49ers need to retool this defense, man, it has to resemble that 2019. Look at this. Look at this compared to all. I mean, you can see in 2023 where he ranks, so still pretty high. Not bad, not bad. And some of his other seasons with the 49ers, for the most part, tilt towards good, outside his first year with the Jets. But I mean, if you could get him, I would like that. I didn't think it was really going to be, like I said, I didn't really think it was going to be a possibility, but shoot, sounds like it might be. So if you can do it, get him in the building. Absolutely. Even if it's for 1 year. And he knows how it goes. If you perform well in San Francisco, you're guaranteed to get a head coaching opportunity as a coordinator. So that's one way that he could look at it. He could say, I could go to the Jags with it's Trent Baalke. He could go over there with Baalke and go through a draft with many more ACL prospects added to the team, and who knows, maybe be one and done there. Um, but I do think uh, I can't remember who the other team that Salah is interviewing with. If you guys do know, I know it's the Jags. Who's the other team that Salah is interviewing with? That would be fantastic. Um, for sure.
We'll see. What you got to do is you got to identify the prospects coming off the ACL injuries, or if they didn't play in college football at all as they enter the draft, like Rashard Robinson. Who needs Dak Prescott when you could have Rashard Robinson, who didn't play college football for an entire season prior to getting drafted? Who needs that? Who needs that?
Hold on one second. Let me Trent Baalke's calling me right now. Hold on. Trent Baalke heard I was making impressions of him, and he said, "You know what, pal?
You know what, Brad? I did a lot of good things for the 49ers. I did a lot of good things. I did a lot of good things."
Anyways, um, Raiders. I saw what you guys said. He's interviewing for the Raiders. I mean, they are going in a little bit of a different direction. Um, you know, I guess they got Tom Brady in the room now. Maybe that helps a little bit, but I don't know, man. I feel like if you're the Raiders, I feel like when you need to get a quarterback, and if you get a quarterback, a young quarterback, you kind of want to pair him with a offensive minded coach so they can stick together and you can have a consistent scheme. Because the problem with having a young quarterback and a defensive minded head coach is that you have the potential to run through multiple offensive coordinators, which means you could have your young quarterback playing in multiple different schemes. So I don't know. And they're just coming off uh, a defensive minded head coach. So I don't know. I don't know how they handle that. To me, those aren't two very attractive jobs. So I if it's the Raiders and it's the Jags, yeah, there might actually be a good chance. There actually might be a good chance 49ers can get Salah. Because what is it? Go to the Raiders, go to the Jags, potentially be one and done there, or come to the 49ers, help flip that defense back, and then be one and done into a desirable head coaching job in a year from now. So we'll see. So we'll see. Joyce says, would love to see Brad coaching. Well, you know what? I got some news for you guys. I actually also I was a part of an extensive coaching interview process this off season, and I am actually excited to announce that I will be coaching my son's sixth grade um, flag football team as an assistant coach. Very prestigious, very, very high-end position and all that stuff. So I'm very excited to make that announcement. Hold on one second. I will be right back. Do not leave. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. Hold on one second. All right. I unfortunately have to go. We have a maintenance call. They showed up a day early and conveniently in the middle of my live. So I got to go deal with that. Maybe we'll come back on. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. But appreciate everyone for tapping on. Thanks for waiting. Unfortunately, I thought we were going to be able to keep this rolling, but I got to take care of this. So we might be back on tonight, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But appreciate you guys. And we'll see what goes down with the 49ers DC job. And we'll go from there. So appreciate y'all. I'm out. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.